We're very grateful to be interviewing Alan Chu. He's the founder and managing director of Houston Technology Limited. He also serves on the Waikato Trust and he's an accountant. So Alan, tell me, when did you come to New Zealand and where from?
I come from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I first landed in New Zealand around April 1974. That was 42 years ago. I came originally with the intention of finishing a degree in management and then with that in hand going back home to help with the family business. But it didn't take me long to work out that I like New Zealand so much that I should make it my home. And so I've been here 42 years and still living it.
Lovely. So tell me about your family and about voting. I mean, when did you become a citizen here or a permanent resident?
To be honest, I can't remember when it was, but perhaps about, I became a permanent resident probably within 5 years of arriving here. And I held onto my Malaysian passport for a while until I decided that it was easier to travel to certain places with a New Zealand passport. So that probably would be about 20-something years ago. So I want to make New Zealand my home, and the reasons are complex and multiple, but mostly I just like the people here. I find them very friendly. I find New Zealanders to be very open-minded, which is important for me because as a member of the minority, I want to make sure that I don't suffer any discrimination, and I haven't found any. And they're very accepting people. But one of the major reasons when I thought about it for my wanting to stay here is the political freedom and the true democracy that we have. Unfortunately, I come from a country where that sort of thing is badly missing, and where my political views are not taken into account, and I'm totally immersed in the politics here these days and find the political freedom to be one of the major draw cards for me to live here.
That's interesting. So have you always voted? You know, whether it be referendum, we've got a flag referendum coming up, we've got the local government elections this year, and of course next year we've got central government elections again.
Yeah, I think in the 42 years since I've been here, there hasn't been a single general or local body election or referendum that I haven't participated in.
That's amazing.
But more importantly, I think what really appeals to me is even if the person or the party or the idea that I voted for didn't succeed, I felt that my view was taken into account, and that's the most important thing, and that's really the true value of democracy.
So you've always voted. That's very unusual for migrants, as you know. They come to the country and it takes them a while to find their feet. So have you always understood the system here? Because the New Zealand political system and the referendum system is very different from Malaysia.
It would be, yeah. When I arrived, there was no MMP that was past the post, so it was a little bit easier to understand. I suppose I had my my tutorial from university. I was quite an activist, a political activist on university, and always felt that if one didn't exercise one's democratic rights, then one is not doing one's duty. To me, society is what we put into it. What we put into it creates what we can draw from it, and therefore society is best if everybody participated in it. And the political process of referendums and elections is probably one of the foremost responsibilities of citizens. So I always felt it was important that we went up and let it be known what we think of the ideas.
But you are unusual, aren't you? Because many migrants don't think that way. I mean, we've got the rates for migrant voting, it's pretty low. Yeah,
I think the reasons must be quite complex, but I suppose it's mainly because a lot of migrants have come from countries where the democracy isn't true and free. I imagine that some of them might even be persecuted for not towing the party line. And it takes a lot of bravery to put the neck up in politics. Now, one other thought too about why migrants may not go to vote is a religious background. I mean, there are a lot of people in the migrant community that that enshrine or embrace the principles of Taoism, and that means well, Taoism equates to peace, and a lot of these people who embrace these principles equate peace with abstinence from politics. Now, I think that's a wrong interpretation, but that's the way I think it has been in many parts of the world. So this religious effect and the fact that back in your home countries you never had the opportunity to see the value of democracy must be holding them back.
So what impact do you think it would have in New Zealand if migrants understood that it was hugely important to exercise their right to vote in elections and referenda, and that it was an aspect of citizenship? What impact do you think that would have on our democracy here?
I think it's huge. Firstly, the migrant community and the Asian community in particular is a fairly large proportion of the population now. Secondly, they have been quiet for a long time, and I think as a result of that, the mainstream politicians might not have heard the message of what the migrant community really requires. And I think that all is needed is for these people to understand that if you don't ask for it, you might not get it. And asking for it is a right enshrined in our democracy. So I think the impact will be big, particularly for the Asian community, because we have been too docile for a long time.
And so finally, what message would you give to migrants out there now who are thinking, well, I don't know anything about the flag and I don't understand how the system works and who cares about local government anyway? What would you say to them?
As I said before, society is what you make of it, and you have to participate in order to benefit from what you can get out of society. The political freedom and the democracy in this country is real. Everybody in this country would like to see participation in politics, and as a migrant community, I think it is incumbent upon us to go out and exercise our vote, because unless we do so, if choices are made that are not to our liking, then we can't blame anybody. I think we need to stand up and be counted as a community.
Thank you, Alan.